You are seeing this now because the universe has been sending you signs, and you have not yet learned to read them. They are not coincidences. They are precise patterns pretending to be accidents. Until you pay attention, keep calling them luck, and you will walk past the door they are pointing to, learn their language, and the same moments become a map you can follow. Look back at this week and notice the repeats, the names and numbers and places arriving in quiet sync. That is not noise. That is alignment, asking you to turn a few degrees and step through. You keep calling them coincidences because that word lets you stay comfortable. But comfort is not what is happening here, and you can feel it. The timing has been too clean, the repetitions too precise, the edges of your days too aligned for this to be random weather drifting through an empty sky. The universe does not speak with coincidences. It speaks with patterns that pretend to be accidents until you are willing to read them. When you finally look straight at them, they stop pretending and start pointing. You think of a person and they text at the exact minute your breath softens. You open a book to any page and the single sentence you needed is waiting. The number that kept visiting you on signs and receipts appears on a door you were not going to knock on, and somehow you are knocking anyway. This is not a scavenger hunt designed to tease you. It is navigation. And the room you are in has been quietly rearranging your furniture into the shape of an arrow. If you keep calling it coincidence, you will keep walking past the arrow and wondering why the same problems repeat. If you call it a sign, not as superstition but as orientation, the ground under your next step changes texture. The distinction matters. Coincidence says nothing to see here. Keep scrolling. Sign says, look again. Feel the magnet in this exact inch of your life. Turn your body a few degrees, and the door you could not find will be visible. The language of the universe is not dramatic, it is exact. It uses small rhymes, so you will not scare yourself into denial. It uses echoes because echoes are gentle. It uses constellations rather than single stars, because only a pattern teaches direction. A star by itself is beautiful and useless. A constellation is a map. Lately, your days have been drawing lines between familiar stars, and the figure is getting clear enough that you can name it. You can call it alignment. You can call it a calling. You can call it your inner compass waking up. The label is less important than your willingness to proceed. There is also a tone to these moments that your nervous system recognizes before your thoughts explain it. Your body knows when the air changes. You stand up from your chair, and a simple calm arrives that was not there an hour ago. You are no longer chasing proof because proof is behaving like a well-trained dog. It is following you. The universe is not withholding information. It is calibrating your attention so you can receive it without short-circuiting your courage. The signs you are seeing are not trophies. They are instructions for pace and posture. Slow down when the same word appears in 3 unrelated conversations. Speed up when the invitation arrives with the weight of obviousness. Rest when the noise spikes for no reason. Not because you are failing, but because old static always tries to drown out a new station right before the tuning locks in. Think of a tuning fork held to the body of a guitar. The moment the frequencies meet, the wood begins to sing. Your attention is that tuning fork. When you bring it to the right place and hold still long enough, your environment resonates and reveals the next note. None of this asks you to abandon reason. It asks you to remember that reason and intuition are not rivals. They are instruments in the same orchestra. Intuition picks the direction. Reason chooses the shoes. Both are necessary if you intend to arrive with your feet unblistered. You are not being asked to decode an impossible code. The code is more simple: short, long, short, pause, repeat. You know this because the pattern has already begun to repeat in your life with a calm insistence that outlasts doubt. Coincidence dissolves under examination. Sign grows stronger the longer you look. Tonight and tomorrow and the day after, look the way sailors look for a lighthouse, not as decoration, but as instruction. When you treat what you are seeing as instruction, your life begins to behave like a harbor that was always waiting, and the boat you are steering stops resisting the current that is trying to carry you home. You have been trained to explain strange timing away, But the reason this has been increasing lately is that you are ready to graduate from shrugging to reading, and once you accept that shift, your days begin to arrange themselves into constellations rather than isolated stars. A single star is pretty and forgettable. A constellation teaches direction. Patterns become visible when your attention stays still long enough for the lines to draw themselves, and that stillness is a choice you can make in the middle of any ordinary errand. You pause, you look again, and the same names, images, and numbers begin to rhyme across different scenes. The feeling is not dramatic, it is exact. There is a pressureless pull in your chest that says here, and when you follow it, the scene opens like a curtain you barely touched. A sign differs from noise in the way it clusters. Noise is scattered and hungry for your energy. A sign arrives clean and repeats without demanding. Noise distracts with urgency. A sign steadies you and elongates your breath. It often nests inside something ordinary so that you do not spook yourself. A sentence said by two strangers a day apart. A city that keeps showing up in conversations. A childhood symbol returning in dreams and on street corners until you finally acknowledge it. The repetition is the point. Repetition is how the universe underlines. You are not being tested. You are being oriented. When you allow that orientation to matter, your body responds first. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw releases. Your vision widens by a few quiet degrees. This is not sentimentality. It is physiology catching up to truth. Reading signs is a posture, not a scavenger hunt. The posture is simple. You let your attention become a tuning fork, and you bring it near what calls you. When the fork vibrates, you do not interrogate the wood for a justification. You listen for the note, and you let it resonate until a direction appears. The moment you sense that resonance, you name it softly to yourself, so that the mind can join the body. Naming turns fog into path. This does not require special language. It can be as plain as I see it. You will notice that the moment you name it, time rearranges around that recognition. One conversation moves earlier in the day and yields what you needed. One small detour places you at the exact intersection where the next piece arrives. The pattern is not created by your wish. It is revealed by your willingness. There is also a rhythm to these conversations. The Morse code of your life tapping short and long through hours that once felt flat. You can feel the short taps in the quick flashes of alignment. You think of a person and they call. You step outside and the exact phrase you needed floats by from a stranger. The long taps are the larger arcs. The theme that keeps threading through months. The project that refuses to die. The city that keeps asking you to visit. When you place the short and the long together, you hear a message that has been trying to reach you for a while. At first, you will be tempted to collect without acting. That is natural. But signs are not souvenirs. They are instructions. The instruction is almost always smaller than your ego prefers and nearer than your fear imagines. It sounds like send the message now. It sounds like book the hour, not the year. It sounds like say the honest sentence once and then be quiet. Your skeptical voice will ask whether you are inventing meaning. Let it ask, and then look at outcomes. When you treat repeating patterns as orientation and take one gentle action, does life get clearer or more chaotic? In almost every case, clarity increases. Not because you have cast a spell, but because attention and action finally agree. Agreement is the current that carries boats home. You do not need to convince anyone else of this. You only need to notice whether your energy returns to you after you move. Forced action drains. Aligned action leaves you more resourced than before you began. That difference is your compass. It will not lie to you. There is one more distinction that will keep you honest as you learn to see. Signs are invitations, not guarantees. They show you where the door is and how the handle turns. They do not walk your feet across the threshold. Crossing is your work, and it happens one exact step at a time. The step will often be hilariously domestic. Clear a drawer. Make the call you have been postponing. Put your shoes by the door for the morning you keep promising yourself. When you follow through on something this small, a larger echo answers. Another piece arrives. Another door eases. This is how you learn the grammar of guidance. Signal, response, until what looked like coincidence feels like the most natural conversation of your life. In that conversation, you become someone who no longer waits for permission from chaos. You listen, you align, you act, and the world reveals its map by lighting the next marker just in time for you to see it. There comes a point when the pattern is clear enough that pretending not to see it costs more energy than admitting the obvious. And that is where you are. The old habit of second-guessing every nudge has started to feel like walking with the brakes on. You are not being asked to believe in magic. You are being invited to notice accuracy. Accuracy is the sensation that arrives when inner and outer events rhyme without strain. It feels like a compass needle settling, like the hum that travels through a room when instruments tune to the same note. You can hear that hum in the way your mornings have begun to organize themselves, in the ease with which the right conversation finds you when you stop rehearsing, in the mercy of tiny delays that place you beside the exact door you would have missed if you were early by 5 minutes. Interpreting signs becomes simpler when you allow your body to help. The mind will always request paperwork. The body files truth faster. When a direction is clean, your breath lengthens on its own, and your attention widens as if a window opened. When a direction is wrong for now, your shoulders creep up and your energy narrows as if the room lost oxygen. This is not mysticism. It is your nervous system working as designed. You can practice with low stakes until you trust it. Choose between 2 small options and notice which one returns energy after you act. The one that leaves you quieter is usually the one aligned with the pattern that is leading you forward. The universe has not been speaking in riddles. It has been underlining in repetition. Repetition is the mercy built into guidance because it knows you are busy and kind of stubborn. It will send the same message through different messengers until it lands. Once it lands, your job is not to shout your discovery to the whole city, but to take the next understated step that proves you heard it. Proof looks like sending the message while your certainty is still warm. Proof looks like booking the small room instead of waiting for the grand stage. Proof looks like acting on the information you already have, rather than stalling for more. When you move like this, the pattern answers by becoming more specific. Specificity is the reward for participation. You will be tempted to measure progress with applause, but applause is a late metric and often irrelevant to your path. A better metric is coherence. Coherence is the feeling of being the same person in private and in public. It shows up when your calendar reflects your priorities without forcing you to defend them. It shows up when your speech simplifies because you are done negotiating with yourself. It shows up when you no longer outsource your sense of timing to other people's urgency. In coherent weeks, the noise loses its leverage and you become easier to find, both to yourself and to the chances that fit you. There is a humility to living this way that can feel unfamiliar. You will decline opportunities that would have impressed an earlier version of you because their shine no longer matches your direction. You will choose unglamorous consistency over dramatic improvisation because momentum now matters more than spectacle. You will keep a promise to your future self on a quiet Tuesday and discover that this is how timelines shift. Not with lightning from the sky, but with ordinary fidelity to the signal you agreed to follow. Doubt will not disappear. It will learn new manners. It will knock, and you will allow it to speak for 1 paragraph. Then you will return to the data. The data is simple. You are more alive on the days you treat repeating patterns as guidance and act accordingly. You sleep better. You argue less with reality. You find yourself in rooms that feel like the future you imagined, not because you forced your way in, but because you arrived on the rhythm that opened those doors from the inside. If you need a safeguard against wishful thinking, remember this. Signs do not ask you to bypass effort. They point you toward the effort that is truly yours. When you follow them, the work still asks for sweat, but the sweat is clean, and it does not exhaust your spirit. You finish tired and satisfied rather than depleted and doubtful. That is how you know you are reading correctly. Keep treating the world like a conversation in which you have equal dignity. Offer attention and take the step that answers what you were shown. Pause when the signal pauses. accelerate when it strengthens. Over time, your life starts to look less like a series of accidental meetings and more like a coastline you recognize by its curves. Recognition is not arrogance. It is the peace of finally speaking the same language as the place that has been calling you. Eventually, attention matures into translation, and translation matures into movement. And this is where the signs stop being pretty and start becoming useful. Usefulness feels different from hype. It is quieter, steadier, closer to the ground. You begin to notice that the signal inside a day strengthens when you keep small promises to yourself, as if reality were rewarding coherence with more coherence. You tell the truth a little earlier in a conversation, and the atmosphere in the room loosens. You sit for 10 focused minutes with the work you have been circling, and the next step presents itself without drama. You choose rest before your body begs, and ideas arrive with the kind of timing that makes you smile at nothing. These are not miracles in the theatrical sense. They are the natural byproducts of reading the constellation correctly and walking in its direction. There will be intervals of silence that make you wonder whether you misheard. Silence is not punishment. It is integration. Think of wet ink that needs a moment before you close the book. Rushing smears the page. When the pattern pauses, you do not fill the pause with noise to feel productive. You deepen your stance, check your bearings, and let the ink dry. The pause is part of the code. Short, long, pause, repeat. When the next tap arrives, it will land cleaner because you did not drown it in your own interference. This is why patience is not passive in this language. Patience is an active choice to keep the channel clear. You will also meet decoys, glittering fragments that resemble guidance but drain your energy as soon as you pick them up. A decoy is loud at the start and needy after contact. A sign is modest at the start and generous after contact. You can feel the difference in your breath. The decoy tightens you and produces urgency that wants witnesses. The sign widens you and produces calm that wants movement. When in doubt, let time ask the question for you. The real thing becomes more specific as you approach. The imitation demands attention and withers without it. Let it wither. Your path does not depend on feeding every shimmer that crosses your field. As you keep translating this language, identity begins to shift. You stop identifying as someone who begs for proof and start living as someone who expects alignment, because alignment has become ordinary. Expectation here is not entitlement. It is familiarity with how a tuned instrument behaves. A tuning fork struck in a resonant room does not apologize for singing. It rings because ringing is what it was made to do. You will find that your posture, voice, and decisions start matching the person you glimpsed when the first signs gathered. That version of you is not a costume. It is a homecoming. Homes have rules that protect warmth. One of them is that you no longer negotiate with chaos for permission to be clear. The world will respond to this shift with the quiet choreography you have been learning to see. People who share your tempo will drift near without introductions. Invitations will arrive in language that already sounds like yours. The right no will free an entire calendar and leave you lighter rather than haunted. Even friction becomes instructive. When a door resists, you will notice whether it is asking for a different key or telling you it belongs to a different hallway. You stop calling every obstacle a lesson and start calling many of them misalignment. This is not cynicism. It is accuracy. Accuracy protects your life from leaking into places where it is not meant to water. If fear returns and tells you that you are imagining all of this, let it finish and then point to the evidence. Point to the mornings when you woke rested because you were not scrolling for omens at 2 in the morning. Point to the afternoons when you took one exact action and 5 consequences aligned themselves without your supervision. Point to the conversation that used to require armor and now completes itself in 3 clean sentences. The mind respects data. Give it data, then bring it back into the boat and keep rowing with the current that has already agreed to carry you. There is a tenderness to living this way that should not be overlooked. Gratitude shifts from strategy into recognition. You are not praising the field to earn favors. You are witnessing the precision with which it has been arranging your days. Recognition stabilizes the bridge you are crossing. When you thank the pattern, you remember to keep your steps measured. When you keep your steps measured, the pattern keeps lighting the next stone. This is the feedback loop that turns coincidence into conversation and conversation into companionship. You are not alone in this language. You are becoming fluent with a partner that has always been speaking. If you want a single sentence to carry from here, let it be simple. I will act on what repeats and rest when it pauses. That sentence is a compass you can trust on tired days and bright ones. It keeps you from forcing, and it keeps you from sleeping through your own arrival. It makes you readable to the parts of the world that have been trying to find you. Readability is the quiet secret beneath every breakthrough. When you are readable to yourself, the universe does not need to shout. It nods, you nod back, and the next door opens from the inside because it knows the shape of your hand.